Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Welcome to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Today I want to talk to you about something that I think is so crucial in our life, and that is trust. You know, we need to trust ourselves, we need to trust other people, we need to trust the universe, trust the world, so that we actually can live our life to the fullest potential. And so I just think it's one of the crucial elements to the things that we have to deal with like every single day. So I kind of just want to talk to you today, you know, about the importance of trust and like what it really does for your life. And then I'll kind of dive into a little bit about gaining trust back and, you know, trusting yourself, just some tactics about trust and just how to gain that back and how to maintain it. How to trust yourself and just the universe so that you can live your life happily and healthy and in just a good mindset. You know, I think there's a few crucial elements to life, and one of them, in my opinion, like I said, it's very important, is trust. Like, trust is the glue that holds so many things together. You know, it holds our relationships together, it holds the world together, you know, arguments, jealousy, anything. Like, trust holds, like, our emotions together. You know, if we're able to trust something, we can kind of keep our stuff together and organize and our emotions under control. You know, trusting the universe, trusting that everything is going to be okay. Like, trusting, you know, that we're making the right decisions. Like, I just really think trust is the glue to so many different aspects in our life, you know, but sometimes that glue is like so hard to get a hold of sometimes, and it's even harder to repair, you know, if it's ever broken. So rebuilding trust can be some of the hardest things we do in our life. It takes so much time to build that trust, but only a few seconds to break it. And that's scary. It's a little bit nerve-wracking. You know, it's not just our relationships with other people that we need to trust, but it's the relationship with ourselves and the relationship we have with the world and the universe. And, you know, it's so important to recognize and just prioritize trust in just all those different aspects in our lives. Because I think what really holds us to reality is the trust, right? Keeping us sane is trusting that everything's going to be okay. This is how it's supposed to work out. And I'm going to move on. I'm going to be happy. And you just got to trust that, right? Trusting that everything's okay. Trusting that everything happens for a reason. You know, trusting that we're going to pick ourselves back up. And that the world is just going to keep spinning. Which is sometimes kind of hard to trust. You know, that like everything is actually going to keep moving on. And I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to grow from whatever I'm going through and all that, right? And so sometimes we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, even though, you know, however long we've been stuck in the dark and we can't see that light, there is a light there and we have to trust that. And so that's why I think it's so important. You know, how do we build trust? How do we restore it? How do we fully trust when we've been so broken or let down before? But, you know, most importantly, why it's just so important to have trust in our lives. Because, like, when we get down and we get low, you know, we remember that feeling. It's like a feeling that stings us right to the chest, or sometimes just right to the heart, that pain when we try to like choke down the things that have wronged us, the people, the world, because the world is scary, life is crazy, and we're just like little tiny things trying to rock through a storm, trying to lift the weight of the world off of our chest sometimes, it really feels like. And I think the thing that like gets us through our day, that keeps us moving, is knowing and understanding and trusting that this is life. This is what's happening. This is what's supposed to happen. And sometimes for reasons we will absolutely, never figure out. Because at the end of the day, we have to trust that everything is going to be okay. The world is going to keep spinning, and our lives are going to continue. We have to trust others that they will not burn us. And I think it's very difficult sometimes to trust other people if we've been wrong before, or if they have shown us, a different light that maybe makes them a little bit distrusting, and we kind of gaining that back is so difficult. Our ability to manage our emotions, even when sometimes, it really doesn't feel like we can manage anything at all. We have to trust our emotions. We have to trust our heart, trust our gut, and it's just so important. We have to trust our ability to know the difference between wrong and right. We make so many decisions in our lives, whether they're small or big, just everyday decisions or life-alternating decisions. It doesn't matter. Constantly, we're making decisions. Constantly, we're growing. We have to decide what's wrong, what's right, what are we going to do. And all of those decisions affect our lives. And we have to really understand and trust ourselves that we're going to make it through and that we're making the right choice, it's scary to just kind of give full trust into yourself and the universe, and that you're doing the right things for your life, because sometimes it really doesn't feel like we have any control. The difference between what we can control and what we can't. We got to trust our hearts to love strongly and unconditionally. We have to trust our brains that we can retain all the knowledge of the world all the knowledge of the world is throwing at us, and all the knowledge of the world just gives us, right? Like on an everyday basis, we're constantly learning and absorbing things into our brains and into our hearts, and that builds us who we are. We have to trust that our bodies can carry us, that our bodies are our instruments, and that we have to trust that they're going to protect us, and that they're going to carry us through life when we need it, and they're going to fight back when we need to as well. We have to trust that the world is going to keep spinning, that the universe does what it does for a reason, that everything happens for a reason. And I just think it's so, so important to find that trust and to find that kind of just center, to being in a line with, this is what's supposed to happen. I'm trusting myself. I'm trusting the world. I'm trusting other people. Because, it sucks going through life and not trusting things. It's like you're constantly walking on eggshells, or you're constantly looking over your shoulder as if something bad's going to happen. And that's no way to live. We can't live through life scared of what's going to happen, because we never know what's going to happen in the future. And we have to be able to let that go and just trust that we're going to be okay. And that everything's going to, play out like it should. And, sometimes we really can't find, that reason of why the world has done what it's done, or why someone has done what they've done to us. We can't figure out. But later on down the road, sometimes we kind of get that clarity of, that happened for a reason. Like, I grew in this way because of that situation. And we're going to breeze through life a lot happier if we can trust that, down the road, I am going to realize why that happened. Down the road, I am going to look back and I'm going to be okay. And, I'm not going to be looking over my shoulder, scared at every single thing life is doing, or any single thing. We can't be scared to get into relationships or build friendships or anything like that, because if we're constantly so scared, we're not living. We have to be present. We have to be aligned with ourselves. We have to trust, everything. And it's scary because trust it's difficult. It is so difficult. But it's just so, so crucial. We are so capable of more when we have trust. And that's why I think it's so important, if we trust someone wholeheartedly and have them to depend on, especially in a hard time, it gives us motivation to keep going when we can trust everything is gonna be okay. And especially when we can trust somebody to lean on and to be there for us in any kind of time of need, because those dark times are very difficult. And if we can trust that everything's gonna be okay, we can trust somebody to lean on, we can trust to have someone to have our back, we're just capable of so much more. We're going to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to be able to keep moving on. And I think that's like the one main reason why it's so important to trust. We are just capable of so much more in our lives if we're able to trust. And don't we all just want to like live our lives to the best ability that we can and happily and healthy? Well, I really think that begins with trusting and understanding why things are happening. It is time for a little bit of a break though, but don't go anywhere. I have a ton more information of why it's so important to have that trust, and then I'm going to jump into some 6 building blocks of trust. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So right back into why trust is so important. Another reason is that we are less lonely when we have trust. This world can sometimes feel like a very lonely place, even though there's hundreds, thousands of people around us. But it can feel very lonely in some parts of our lives. And when we are able to trust, when we're able to build those relationships, when we're able to open up and talk to people, suddenly the world isn't so lonely. Suddenly we feel like we are connected with so many other people, and we have, people around us. We have a good support system, and the world just becomes a lot brighter. It can deal with our emotions better when we're able to trust other people too, right? We have to be able to let people in. If we don't let people in, we tend to shut down and we close up, and we get kind of, we're suffocating ourselves with our own emotions, our own life things that are going on. And that's terrifying. It's scary, right? So if we're able to trust other people and let them in, we're going to be so much less lonely. If you're also, able to trust, you become more authentic. We're letting people see the unedited versions of us when we deeply trust them. Like, don't you just love the feeling of feeling like I am 100% myself with this person? I feel so good when I'm around them. I'm so open. I'm goofy. I'm silly. I'm happy. I'm healthy. You're just so open, and you become more unique and authentic. And don't we all want to be interesting, and we all want to be unique and authentic, and we want people to admire us for our quirky ways or whatever the case is. And so by trusting people and letting those people in, they get to see the sides of you that you don't maybe show the rest of the world, but those few lucky people get to see your most authentic self. And I think that is just so exciting right there. We can build those strong relationships and have better experiences because of it. We want to live life like we're dying. Live life to the fullest and be your authentic and unique self. And so let people in, trust people to see the unedited version of you. Trusting also allows us to be more positive towards the world. Suddenly the world isn't such an ugly place when we're able to see the bright side. And we have to trust to see the bright side. A positive, ambitious person is able to trust that things are going to be okay, is able to look at a bad situation and trust that that happened for a reason, and I'm going to just learn a lesson from this, and I'm going to grow and move on. And don't we all just want to look on the bright side and feel happy and positive and look at the world in bright, vibrant colors? Right? Like, we just want to be positive and happy and healthy, and so we need to trust that everything's happening for a reason and that our life is going to continue. The world is going to keep spinning around, and we're going to keep growing into this amazing, amazing person, and that is just so exciting as long as we can trust that, everything's happening and we have that positive outlook. You need to be a more positive, happy person. Trust is very hard to do if you've ever been let down before. If you've ever been let down by the universe, by other people, maybe even just by yourself, it makes you automatically want to be untrusting, because if it sucked once, it's probably going to suck again, right? Sometimes we get into that mindset, we get into that rut, like, you know what? This happened once, it's probably going to happen again. Why would I even look at the bright side? You just have no trust for those things that once broke you, and it's so hard to do that. But you're going to be stuck in the circle of untrusting if that's your mindset that you're going to have. But you need to think, is there anything that I could take away from this sucky situation? When something happened, when someone did you wrong, when life did you wrong, when you let yourself down. Is there just one thing that you can pull out of that? You can draw that out as a positive thing, as something to grow on, as something to, just trust that there's that reason. Is there any kind of lesson that you might have been learning? Or did it make you, grow? Did it make you realize things? Did it make you become more self-aware? Did it make you, put yourself in a new place in your life maybe? Like maybe you had to change your environment or something. There's always just one tiny thing, and sometimes it's not very easy to see. It's not very visible, but it's there. So, is there anything that you learned, and hold on to that so you can grow. A reason, a rhyme, just something to grab onto so that you can start gaining that trust back. Because I really think that gaining trust back begins with you, and your mindset and how you're looking at things. So if you're able to hold on to something, you can start gaining your trust back. The thing is, trust can be very hard to define, but it's so apparent when it's lost. And when we lost that trust, we withdraw our energy and level of engagement. If someone did us wrong, we back up, figuratively and physically most of the time. We take a huge step back and we kind of look at that person differently, or we look at the situation differently. Maybe we look at ourselves differently. We pull back, and then we get stuck in a rut with ourselves that we can never rebuild that trust. And so we have to be able to kind of separate ourselves and evaluate the things that's going on, and then try to pull something to grab onto so that you can start regaining that trust. So now I'm going to go over the 6 building blocks of trust. Number 1 is reliability and dependability. So a person or a situation that's true to their word and fulfills their commitments. This goes the same for ourselves as well. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to rely on ourselves. We have to depend on ourselves, on our body, on our mind, our emotions. So that is number 1, reliability and dependability. The next one is transparency. We get scared of the unknown. That is facts. We are terrified of the unknown in our relationships, in ourselves, any different situation. We tend to assume the absolute worst case scenario, especially if we've been burned before, especially if we've been let down and we are trying to regain our trust. We can't help but think, when you walk up to a group of people and they stop talking as soon as you get there, we automatically think, okay, they must have been talking about me, right? Because they just stopped talking as soon as I came up. Like, that is our mind, trying to, not trust a situation. And so we need transparency. You know, when there's transparency in relationships in our lives, we don't have to make up those assumptions because everything is clear. We don't have to be distrusting because everything is just right in front of us. Number 3 is capability. In a sense, you know, it's very essential to building trust. You know, if we don't think that a person or a leader or an organization is not capable of doing what they're supposed to be doing, then we cannot trust them. Therefore, even when a person has a good heart or good intentions and we like them personally, they cannot win our trust if we don't think that they're capable of doing what they promise. So that is another essential step with trust. Number 4 would be sincerity, authenticity, and congruency. 9 times out of 10, we can sense when somebody is saying something that is not aligning with how they are actually feeling. You've ever looked at somebody and they said something to you and you're like, I just did not believe you right there, because, you know, we project our emotions and how we're actually feeling through our bodies and our body language and our facial expressions, and we can tell, or we can just sense when somebody is, you know, just not actually feeling what they're saying. No matter how good of a liar some people are, we can usually see through these things. You know, when someone says one thing but then does the opposite, they're not congruent. And so you need sincerity, you need authenticity and congruency, you know, because we can tell when people aren't being when people are being insincere, inauthentic. We can tell, we can sense that. And so that's super important. Number 5 would be fairness, because life isn't fair. Let's be real. You know, we've all heard that saying. We've all heard, you know, we've all felt that sometimes. But by fairness, I kind of mean just being equal. You can build trust in a relationship, like, if it's both equal sides, right? Like, if it's a one-sided friendship or relationship, you're not going to be able to build that trust. You know, you listen to them, but when you talk, they don't listen to you. You know, we have to be fair and equal with each other to build and keep that trust. And then number 6 is going to be openness and vulnerability. When someone is opening up themselves to us and they're apologizing for their mistake, you know, they take responsibility for it. We see people in that vulnerable state. You know, we're more likely to understand and trust them again. You know, because we are humans. We make mistakes. Life happens. Things happen. But if someone is never wrong and never apologizes for their mistakes, that's just so hard to trust that person, right? When we can see, you know, that they're open and they're vulnerable. It is a vulnerable thing to apologize. When you've done something really wrong, it takes a lot of courage, and it's vulnerable. It's a lot of vulnerability to go up to somebody and be like, I screwed up. I'm sorry. So that is a huge one in, you know, the 6 blocks of trust. It is time for another break though, but don't go anywhere. I have a lot more information about gaining trust and just why it's so important that we're able to have trust in our lives.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast. Let's jump right back in like usual. So all of these things that we really contribute to trusting other people and situations and trusting ourselves, we have to be real and honest with ourselves. And so all those 6 blocks of trust, that comes into every single situation in our life, in our relationships with ourselves, with the universe. We have to kind of build on those 6 blocks and kind of use those as, kind of engaging points to kind of go back to. And it might just help you kind of determine and just see how you're feeling. It's a little bit more, some reflection. Go back to those 6 blocks of trust and just see, reflect on those and how you feel about those in any situation. If you ever feel, like you're not trusting somebody or that you're trying to regain back trust, whatever the case is. Because we have to take responsibility for our actions. We have to be transparent. We have to hold ourselves accountable for the things that we do. We have to be sincere. We have to be honest and about our capabilities and all those things. It's so important. It takes so much courage to trust. I think it is so strong when somebody has a good, trusting relationship with the world, with everything in their own world. Because it takes courage to rebuild trust when it's broken. It takes courage to let people back in, to let ourselves live freely again. And I think trust it makes you so strong if you're able to trust so many different aspects in your life. We have to trust the universe. We have to trust the timing of our life. We have to recognize that it's okay to feel off balance sometimes, and it's okay to not be okay, but you have to give yourself that time to your emotional moment, and you can grow from that. We need to accept. Accept is what is happening. We have to accept that the world is happening, that things happen. We have to accept what happens to us so then we can make our game plan. We want to control everything around us. Most of us, at least, we try to control things. We try to, of course, we all want to live this beautiful, great life. And so we try to control different aspects of our lives. Sometimes we can't do that. And we just need to accept the cards that were dealt. We have to accept those things so that then we can make an appropriate plan from that. If we're able to accept that, do some reflection, be like, okay, this is what's happening, kind of reflect, kind of go into detail, but okay, this is what happened, and now I need to make a game plan and see where I'm going next. What is my next step? Acceptance can be a very hard thing, but once we're able to accept what life has thrown at us, then we can put our energy into the things that really matter. We can put our energy into the game plan to make our lives better, and we can start creating the life that we want. We also need to learn. Educate yourself. It's easier to trust when you're able to educate yourself on those things. And so we have to learn from the struggles, the falls, the heartache, the heartbreak, the loss and the endings. But if you educate on the things that are happening in your life, it's going to make you so much more trusting. Knowledge is power. The more you know and understand, the better you're going to be able to handle those situations that life is throwing at you. The better you're going to be able to trust. You're going to be able to accept things if you can educate yourself on them, right? You got to learn. Life is all about learning. We're getting knowledge thrown at us all the time, and it is so important. When you're educated about something, then you know the why. If life throws you something and you're like, why the hell did this happen to me? Well, I cannot figure out the reason. Where's the positive side to this? Educate yourself on it. Learn about it. Maybe you need to learn something about yourself. Maybe you need to learn something about the universe, about somebody else. Educate yourself, and you're going to have a better understanding, and you're going to be able to trust easier. And that's so, so important. Another one is to celebrate. We need to celebrate the good things that are happening in our lives. We have to celebrate the lows, appreciate them as areas of growth. And by celebrating your small wins, you'll be able to keep yourself motivated to what's next and what's the next obstacle life is going to throw at you, because you got to learn to appreciate every single aspect of life. Focus on the small things and celebrate them when something happens. You're going to appreciate the things that are being thrown at you, and you're going to be able to look at the positive. It's going to look like a positive world, and that is so important. It'll help you better trust what is being thrown at you by looking on the positive side of things and celebrating and understanding the stuff that's happening in your life and why you should trust it. And then something that I think is also extremely important in trusting is just to be grateful. You are alive, you are healthy, and that right there gives you some trust into the universe and how your life is going. So when you're feeling low about the things you cannot control, the things that life is throwing at you, the things that you've lost trust, just remember to be grateful for all the things that you do have. Be grateful for the things that happened in your past and grateful for the things that you get to look forward to. Your family, your friends, there's always something positive going on. By being grateful for where things are at in your life, you can better understanding of trust in the universe. You can understand why those obstacles are happening to you. So be grateful. It's so important to trust the universe because you need to grow in this world, and we get thrown so many different obstacles, but it's just so important to celebrate and be grateful and accept them and learn about them so that you can live a happy and free life. You don't want to feel like you're contained, like you're closed off because you can't trust things in your world. You're not running in a circle. You're not banging your head against the wall, screaming, why me, why me? If you're able to just trust things, right? You have to trust why things are happening. You have to trust your world, trust your universe, trust yourself. Everything happens for a reason. And if we can trust, then we can let go of our anxieties and our worries and our stresses. It's also just so important to be someone that people can trust. We want friends that we can depend on, of course. We want those positive friends that we can depend on, that we can lean on. And we also want to be that friend that others can depend on, right? Because, of course, we want to be someone that people can confide in, that people can come to, that they can look to for positive things in their lives. You don't want to be the person that people only tell the half truth to. Have you ever got that before when someone's telling you something and it's like maybe something you already know and you're like, you're not even telling me the full story? And that's probably because there's a smidgen part of them, a little part that's like, I don't trust this. So be the person that people can depend on, because we want to depend on other people and you want to be that person that they want to depend on as well. I'm going to just quickly dive in really quickly about why we also shouldn't lie, why always being truthful is so important so that you can be more trusting to the world. Think about it. If you lie to others subconsciously, you're also not going to be able to trust yourself. You're like, okay, I'm lying to others. So now that's dishonest. That is distrusting. If you're lying to other people, how are you supposed to trust yourself that you're going to be transparent and authentic and real and honest with yourself if you're not even honest with any other people? It all starts with you, right? It goes both ways. If you lie to others, you're probably lying to yourself about some aspects in your life, whether you want to admit that or not. You can't lie and expect people to tell you the truth. It goes both ways. Like I said, relationships goes both ways, and you both need to be fair and honest, and the same goes for yourself. You need to be fair and honest to the world so that you can be fair and honest to yourself as well. You can't lie to others and then expect to fully trust yourself when lies are coming out of your mouth, right? It doesn't work like that. So trusting starts with yourself. It's within you, and if you're able to be an honest person inside, then you can be an honest person on the outside as well. We need to build connections to grow with people, and so if we can be honest with someone, that right there is starting your connection, starting your friendship, your relationship on such a good start. As humans, we are hardwired to connect with others and to trust others. Without connection, we would not be able to survive as a species. We need to connect. We need to build those relationships. We thrive off of one another and learn and grow with one another. So, trust is just so important. Beyond the fact that trust is important for a healthy relationship, and for so many other reasons, it's going to help us build that happy and healthy life that we've always dreamt of, that we've always wanted. And just trust is just such a huge element in our life that we need to learn to make sure we hold on to, and to be able to regain that back and trust ourselves, trust the universe, trust others. Because you're going to be living a way happier life if you do. Well, that is all the information that I have for you today about trust. I hope this inspired you a little bit to dig a little bit deeper into your trust, or maybe to reach out to a friend, or, get connected with yourself a little bit more in the universe, and just trust that everything happens for a reason. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I had an amazing time, like always. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. It is always greatly appreciated. Till next time, thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.